Oh, Canada. What happened? Let's talk about it here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast, brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Welcome to the world of trading cards reimagined. Stay tuned later on in the show for more information on this awesome new tool for collectors. You're going to want to check out the Sports Card Investor app. It is Monday, July 11th, 2022. And thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I'm your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patno. He's right over there, right next to my face. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com for Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week, including today. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. So, Colby, I don't really have any ideas for topics today. Can't really think of anything to talk about. You?
Whoosh. I heard something about the Mariners being on like an 8-game winning streak and currently holding sole possession of a wild card spot about 20 days after they were 10 games under 500. I guess we could probably talk about that.
That seems also fake. I thought it was time to fire Jerry Dipoto and Scott Service.
Yes. Well, all those people were joking, Ty, is what it really was.
Okay.
Yes.
It was just a prank.
Also,
just a social experiment. Yeah.
Sure. The draft's also about a week away, so I guess maybe that could be interesting. And then the whole trade deadline thing. All-star game, some snubs, some selections. I think we can find 30 minutes.
Yeah, I think we got stuff to talk about now that you've kind of refreshed my my mind here. So yeah, we're going to be talking about this series this past weekend. Mariners, of course, going 6-0 along a very critical stretch in their season. This is the best possible outcome. This is the best timeline, if you will. We're also going to be talking about how this changes things for the Mariners moving forward, especially in terms of their aggressiveness on the trade market. And we're also going to be talking about the All-Star game, of course. Julio Rodriguez gets selected to the AL All-Star team, but Ty France gets snubbed. We're going to be talking about that later on. But let's get into this series that was, I mean, it was perfect for the Mariners. There's no other way to really describe it other than that. This was absolutely everything the Mariners could have possibly hoped for, and then some. A lot of heroes that we could be talking about: Eugenio Suarez, Ryan Borucki. But I think the guy that we really need to talk about here is Carlos Santana. And all I think we can say about this is chills. Dipoto did it again.
It was a smooth little trade there by Jerry to go get a guy that has some magic in the bat, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. It really was because Santana, we had talked about when he came over, initially not wild about the trade. Then you kind of talk through it, and you're like, well, he'll help. I don't think he's going to provide much power. He had started to a little bit in June, but we were like, we'll see. And then, of course, over the weekend, he hits 3 home runs and 5 at-bats, 2 of them being game winners. So it's funny how that works out. And yeah, I don't – maybe Jerry is good at his job. I don't know why people stop, like to pretend that he's not. Like, oh, we don't know if he's good at it. Yes, we do. And I know you're one of those people, Ty. We know. We know that Jerry's good at his job. It's time to accept it, move on. The Mariners have a good general manager, not a perfect one. That guy doesn't exist. Maybe not a great one. I don't know. That to me is yet to be determined. But is Jerry Dipoto good at his job? Yes. Yes, he is. So, and you know who's also good at his job? Carlos Santana.
Yeah,
so there you go.
He is.
Carlos Santana's very good at his job. At least this weekend he was.
Yeah, so I think you could see this coming because in San Diego he was just hitting the absolute hell out of the ball,
Hmm.
and now he elevated it in this Toronto series, and then hadn't had his first Mariners home run leading into Saturday night, and then the Mariners getting shut down by Alek Manoah, the only good pitcher, starting pitcher at least that they faced in this whole series. They had two bullpen days. They got very fortunate with the pitching matchups in this one, but.
Hmm.
They were down 1-0 there, and just seemed like this was going to be one of those kind of deflating offensive duds from the Mariners that we had seen for most of this year. And but Santana was able to come through with that one, and then his next at bat, the very next day, he goes yard as well, and then later on in that game, it's another game winner. It's pretty incredible how that has strung together for Santana here over the last couple of days. And since he joined the team, 47 plate appearances, got 11 hits, double, three home runs, 6 RBI, he's slashing 282, 404, 538 with a 171 WRC plus, which I mean is basically just carried over from his last month with the Royals as well. He got off to a terrible start in the year, but really started to turn things on in June, and that's just continued for him. Now for about 6 or 7 weeks, Carlos Santana has been one of the best hitting first basemen in all of baseball. And so if that continues, I mean, that's huge. And I think the big thing too is he's become such a huge part of this clubhouse already as well. The guys have talked
Yep.
about it. JP Crawford has talked about it. Julio Rodriguez has talked about it. And you could just see it on the field too. Like he just looks like he's having a lot of fun being a Seattle Mariner. And it seems like the guys just absolutely love him. They've developed this little post game celebration in the infield now that
The outfield one is better, but yes.
yeah, yeah. But like they're just coming together, and it's we're starting to see this team really turn into the team that we saw last year. It's just having a lot of fun. They're doing it in their own way, of course, but they're having a lot of fun. They've really come together here. I don't know if it's necessarily the brawl that set things off, or if it was the arrival of Santana. It's probably just a culmination of things, and ultimately they're playing better baseball at the end of the day, and that's obviously going to raise spirits as well. But yeah, it was an amazing series for the Mariners, and obviously me with my own personal ties and personal hatred for the Blue Jays, it was that much sweeter, especially after I had to sit there at Rogers Center and watch them lose 2-3 to the Blue Jays.
Yes, the infamous picture which I sent out there on Sunday. Um,
By the way,
uh,
the Mariners are 5-1 against the Blue Jays since that picture was taken.
Back-to-back years, they've beaten the Blue Jays in the season series, which makes me happy because we both happen to know a Blue Jays fan who takes it personally almost. Yeah, I think a lot of people will point to that brawl as kind of like the turning point, and it's easy to do that because it's such a landmark moment. It's the first thing
Mhm.
that they've done, first thing like it that they've done in 15 years, I think it is. And it's an easy landmark, and you look at what the Angels have done since then versus what the Mariners have done since then. That's culture right there. That's a good team build as well, a well built roster.
Mhm.
Those are the differences there between what the Angels did, which is collapse, still
Mhm.
collapsing. I believe they're 12 games under 500 now. On May 26th, they were 10 games over. You guys can do the math there.
Mhm.
But I think to me, the turning point is actually probably the Jesse Winker double against Baltimore.
Mm.
Because if you remember, they lost the brawl game, and then they lost the next night, and they looked dead. They looked
Yeah.
disinterested from being there. And then they got absolutely shut down by Dean Kramer, who's on a nice little run, by the way. They got
Mhm.
absolutely shut down by him for 7 innings. And then in the eighth, Julio, the weird, was it Mountcastle? Didn't
Oh yeah,
tag
yeah.
him, and that whole situation. And then the double that just barely cleared Hayes' glove in right field, and the Mariners go on to win 2-0 a game that they really didn't have any business. Robbie Ray was just absolutely dominant and filthy, and Diego Castillo and Paul Sewald slammed the door shut. I think that game is the turning point, and that's really when things started. And I believe that was Santana's first game with the club, might have been his second. So
Mhm.
yeah, that to me is when this whole thing turned around. That Jesse Winker double.
Mhm.
And the Robbie Ray pitching performance that had preceded it. So it's been great. 16 of 19 is no small feat. And it's funny, Ty, when we talked about this when they were 10 games under, we were like, they're going to have to do something like win 12 in a row, or they're going to have to do something like 15 of 18 or 16 of 20 or something to get back into this thing. And
there
they did
it is.
it.
Yeah,
they
did it.
And they did it. So it's a credit to Scott Service. It's a credit to the staff. It's a credit to the players. Obviously, the number one, the most credit goes to the players. And it's a credit to Jerry Dipoto and his front office, who kind of built this team. And again, it's not perfect. It's not exactly where we want it to be, but it's July 11th. We're a week away from the All-Star break, and if the season ended today, the Mariners would be in the playoffs, which would be a huge win.
Yeah, so not to be overlooked here, the Mariners now have the head-to-head tiebreaker over the Blue Jays, which is, it might be irrelevant, but there's a non-zero chance that could matter towards the end of the season. Again, these teams were just one game apart from one another at the end of last season, and it seems like they're pretty, tied close here. Like they're going to be neck and neck down the line. Yes. So. And then, the other thing too is no other team in the wild card race has separated itself. The Rays, the Red Sox, they're all right there. So how much does all of this change things for the Mariners? We're going to be talking about that in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Athletic Greens. I started taking Athletic Greens because I just don't have the time to research every single amazing thing that's going to make my body feel great, and I'm sure neither do you. So what is Athletic Greens? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. And it only costs you less than $3 per day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. It's lifestyle friendly as well, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. And for every purchase, Athletic Greens donates to organizations helping to get nutritious food to kids in need, including No Kid Hungry, right here in the U.S. So right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every single day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/MLB Network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/MLB Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every single day. We greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate your support, and we're very excited to be talking about a winning ball club finally. It was pretty rough there when this team was 10 games under 500, and we were trying to, scrape together topics and not be so doom and gloom every single episode and every single segment on this show. But it got pretty tough at times. But it's nice that things have turned around here. Certainly helps.
Maybe for you, I thought I was cheery the entire time. So.
Sure, absolutely. I'm sure everyone in the YouTube comments would certainly agree with that sentiment as well.
Never wavered.
So the Mariners, of course, are 45-42 now, which, by the way, same exact record that the 2019 Nationals had through their first 87 games. I'm just saying, just putting that out there. This is merely information, folks. Merely information. I am not making any sort of statements with that whatsoever. But the Mariners are only a game behind the Rays. They're only 2 games behind the Red Sox, I believe. I might have them flipped. But they are very close to the other 2 teams in the wildcard spots right now ahead of them. Of course, they are the sole owners of the 3rd wildcard spot. Yes, they are technically tied with the Blue Jays, but they do, of course, have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So they are ahead of the Blue Jays, technically. So now that we are 6 games away from the All-Star break and about 3 weeks away from the trade deadline, how much does this change things for you, Colby? How much does this change things for you in terms of how you foresee the Mariners approaching the trade deadline, and how aggressive do you think they should be?
Very aggressive. To be kind of lazy. Very aggressive. They need to be, because this team, despite the hot streak that they're on, they do have holes that they need filled. They do need starting pitching, and I know every time I say that, people, the pitching's been so good, and it has been, but it's also been incredibly healthy, and we've seen Logan Gilbert start to slow down. We've seen Marco blow up at random times. We've seen Chris Flexen just lose all control and command at times, and Robbie Ray has been spectacular for the last 5 or 6 starts, but do you remember what he looked like before then? Like it's this idea that the Mariners have enough starting pitching, they should only focus on the offense is baloney. They need a starting pitcher, preferably a number 3, somebody who is at least close to as good as Gilbert, if not a little bit better. There are a few options out there like that. Yes, it's going to be expensive. Yes, the Mariners should do it anyways. They need to be aggressive at the deadline here. Because, and I think people, they look at it and say, well, why are we doing all this to get into a wild card game? Why would we give up Noelvi Marte to get into a wild card game? Well, if you're giving up Noelvi Marte, you're doing it for somebody who's going to be around next year too. You're not trading Noelvi Marte for any of the rentals that are going to be available. And I'm just using Marte as the example. But you also need to understand that in this year's playoff format, you get 3 games guaranteed. So if you go add let's say Frankie Montes, right, and maybe that cost you Noelvi Marte and Adam Macko and Taylor. Oh no, like what are we going to do? Well, think about a wild card round where you're going up against, say, the Yankees, or not the Yankees, where you're going up against, say, the Twins, and you want to go ahead and you want to throw out there Robbie Ray, Logan Gilbert, and Frankie Montas in your 3-game series. Don't you think your odds go up of winning that series? So. You got to be pretty aggressive here. To me, starting pitching is still the number 1, despite how well the rotation's been multiple times through. And obviously, George Kirby is going to have to kind of be not shut down.
Yeah, and we're already seeing that, right? Like they're already managing his innings. He's been sent down here for the All-Star break. He will be back after the All-Star break. This isn't anything other than just managing innings. But yeah, like they need another starter, because especially the depth behind Kirby, non-existent, really. Like there's Tommy Malone, who would probably get the ball and is probably going to get the ball in Texas. Then Darren McCacken, Justice Sheffield, and then Levi Stout. I was honestly struggling on the name there.
It might be Penn Murphy over Levi Stout. Not honestly been great this year. Taylor Dollard, maybe. Ooh, it gets rough really fast. And I think also what this means is that Seattle should be a little more aggressive on the rentals. Now, that's not saying you trade Noelvi Marte for Brandon Drury, but do you maybe consider trading Levi Stout for Brandon Drury? Maybe. Yeah, you might want to consider that. And so, and the Mariners are probably going to make a trade or two that the casual prospect, follower will go, ooh, like that's for 2 months of Drury, for 2 months of David Robertson. That's the deals you make. Those are the deals you make when you're a legitimate playoff contender. So the Mariners should be aggressive, and to me, nobody outside of my top 5 or so is off limits when it comes to rentals. Obviously, I'm not just going to trade, Adam Macko just to trade him, but like if I think Brandon Drury can hit for the rest of the year, and I'm speaking as Jerry Dipoto here, and the Reds say, well, we want Adam Macko, I'm not going to say absolutely not, like it's, you have to have that conversation, and you have to be pretty aggressive, because right now the Mariners have holes at starting pitching. They have a big hole at second base, and they could probably use another relief arm or two, and preferably one that can handle high leverage situations if you ask them to. So they have some work to do.
Yeah, I wrote a piece today on Inside the Mariners looking at some relievers. I think that is an area that they need to look at, especially with the injury to Ken Giles, unfortunately. Yeah,
bummer. Yeah, you wanna give a little preview there? Give me a name that we haven't talked about.
Well, Tanner Rainey is someone that we've talked about on the Patreon or on the Patreon show, but he was on there. How about Will Crow though? You know who Will Crow is?
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So he is leading the league in weak contact right now amongst all qualified relievers. Just 21.2% weak contact, and he's walking quite a few guys, like over 4 guys per 9, which is rough. But the ability to generate weak contact, it's basically what you were hoping to get out of Sergio Romo. And that's kind of what I was looking at there with that. Some, a couple other names. It's guys that you would expect to see on a list of relievers from me specifically. There's Chris Stratton, of course, he's on there. Of course, he's on
Sure,
there.
sure.
But yeah, so,
Would you trade Adam Macko for Will Crow?
yes,
Okay.
I think we're in that territory now, right?
Yeah,
Like,
Will Crow's got a few years of control too, I
Yeah.
believe. So, but would you trade Adam Macko for Chris Stratton?
probably, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in that territory now where guys
Yeah.
that we really like the Milcar Perez and the Adam Macko and Levi Stout, you got to trade him for a middle reliever or, well, like a seventh inning guy, to use layman's terms. You got to do it. Like, you're in that, your window is now. And not for nothing, but this team has earned the right to maybe overpay a little bit for the right player in the right situation. So
Yeah, and like another thing too is like the Mariners can stay hot here. There's a very clear path to staying hot here because they have, according to Tankathon, the sixth easiest remaining schedule
yes.
in baseball right now. So, and really, you look at their schedule, they have 6 games against the Yankees, 7 against the Astros, 3 against the Braves, 2 against the Padres. That's it for teams that are above 500 right now. And of course, there's still games against the White Sox, games against the Guardians. There's still going to be, pesky teams that they are going to
Texas is
face.
going to be pesky. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean much that they have the sixth easiest schedule, but they're not facing the Astros 13 times down the stretch. They're largely going to be facing teams that are probably going to sell. We're talking Detroit, we're talking Anaheim, we're talking Oakland. So
Yeah.
It's go time. It's they've earned it. They deserve it. The fan base deserves it. It's go time. And to me, if they have a deadline similar to last year's, I would say that is like a C+ deadline for this year's club.
Yeah, I don't think that's an acceptable deadline for this club. I think it made sense last year because, again, I think at the time they had a couple teams that they still had to leapfrog. But right now, barring some sort of disaster over the next couple weeks, coming out of the All-Star break and everything, they're probably going to be in a playoff spot or right there around a playoff spot. And I don't think that you can let that fall by the wayside here, especially because you're starting to see all these pieces come together. 2023 is probably going to be a pretty special year for this team.
Right.
Might also want to try to get that jump started a little bit here.
Right. And let's just say it what it is. Scott Service and the players have done their job. It's time for John Stanton and Jerry Dipoto to do theirs. So money shouldn't be an issue here. Hoarding prospects shouldn't be an issue here. It's go time. And John Stanton and Jerry Dipoto should not stand in the way of that. And I don't think they will.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's switch gears here and talk a little bit about the All-Star game in just a moment because we have one Mariners representative, but it's not the Mariners representative that I think we all assumed was going to be there. And there's still a chance that he might end up getting in, but we'll talk all about that in just a moment. Real quick, a reminder: this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by the Sports Card Investor app. Now, Colby and I have run a few card giveaways in the past, and they've always done pretty well. So I assume we have quite a few investors and casual card collectors tuning in to us right now, and we have a great new app to tell you about: the Sports Card Investor app. It is a one-stop shop for all your card collecting needs. You can check the market activity and trends for over 630,000 cards, see all the eBay listings for them, and make purchases right through the app. Now that Julio Rodriguez has been named an all-star in his first season at the major league level, the prices of his cards have never been higher. But considering the trajectory he's on, you still might be getting a deal, quite frankly. So you can check out all the info you need on the Sports Card Investor app right now on your mobile device. It's available for free on the Google Play and Apple app stores, or you can go to sportscardinvestor.com/locked on. So as I mentioned there, Julio is an all-star as a rookie, and deservingly so. We talked about it last week that he's been one of the most valuable outfielders in all of baseball. He had to get in. absolutely had to get in. Deserved to get in, especially over the likes of and I know that George Springer and Giancarlo Stanton did make it, but Julio deserved it more than either of those guys. He deserved it more than really the only guy that I thought outside of Mike Trout or Aaron Judge that you could make an argument with, against Julio was Kyle Tucker. But those guys can coexist on the same All-Star roster, and they are. Byron Buxton got in, which is a little bit of a surprise. I know he's been great, obviously, but he's struggled a little bit lately offensively, and obviously missed about 20 or so games with injury. But yeah, so Julio's in. We're gonna see him down in LA next week. That's a lot of fun, and I wouldn't rule out the possibility that he's in the home run derby as well. I think
he was very clearly did not decline to say
Yeah.
that he would do that. I don't know if he's been asked, but by Major League Baseball, but when reporters asked, he said, "We'll see." So I think he would be very interested in doing that. I don't know if I would be interested in him doing it, but it's Julio, so I mean, he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, Ty France did not make the team at all. He was, of course, in the final two for voting. Lost the starter vote to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who across the board has had a worse year than Ty France. That's not to say that Guerrero's been bad. It's been great, but just not as good as Ty France. Not as good as Luis Ariz. But Ariz did make it. But Miguel Cabrera, the third first baseman, making it in as a legacy vote by the commissioner. And ultimately, that allowed the Dusty Baker and the AL All-Star team to not add an additional first baseman aside from Ariz and Guerrero. So France is out for now. We'll see how the injury to Jordan Alvarez impacts things. It's possible that France could take a spot. It's also possible that JD Martinez could take a spot as well. So there's a lot of options there, but France should be an all-star. Colby, does it matter though?
I think it matters to Ty France, so I think in that sense it should matter to us. It's it's kind of interesting. The way that the reserves are picked is that it's by player ballot, and then the commissioner, the league can also pick certain players more than just the commissioner's pick. So how much Dusty Baker has to say, I don't know. I think Baker can pick the replacement. I think that's his prerogative, not the league's. So it'll probably be JD Martinez, which will suck, but we'll see how it goes. To me, do I care? Not really. I like throwing shade at Astros fans for no reason yesterday, which is always funny to see the response. But I don't. I don't care. I'm not going to watch the All-Star game anyways. If Julio's in the Derby, I'll probably watch it. But I don't need to see Julio take at bats against Clayton Kershaw in the 7th or whatever. Like I don't. All-Star game's not my thing, but it matters to Ty, and Ty deserves it. So he should be going to the All-Star game. And so from that aspect, it does matter to me. I don't know if they're doing like the final fan vote thing. It doesn't sound like they are.
No, they got rid of that after the Segura era.
I see. Somebody besides the Blue Jay fans pack the polls, and all of a sudden we have a problem. Okay,
yeah.
I get how it is. So, but yeah, we'll see. I think he has a decent chance to get in still, because there will also be other players who drop out.
Yeah.
I believe George Springer has even hinted that there's a good chance he's not going to go. And they don't need to replace Springer with an outfielder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can replace whoever they want. So I still say there's a decent chance he goes. There's a very thin outside chance that maybe Gilbert gets in too. But it's just a shame because, Ty France has been undoubtedly the best first baseman in the American League this year, from the start of the year till now. Yeah. And for him not to even make the team, it's disappointing. And I understand people who are really upset about it. It's not me, just because I'm not a huge I don't care about the All-Star game that much, but I know Ty is assuredly disappointed by it, and so for that reason I'm not happy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He deserves it. And it matters too because there's incentives that are based off of that. There's it just looks better on your resume, of course. And
Mhm.
France is off to a pretty great start in his career, and those All-Star appearances are going to matter for things down the line. So it's just it's an unfortunate situation. Hopefully that gets rectified as guys drop out, and like you said, that's going to happen. And that also might open the door for someone like Logan Gilbert to make it in as well on the pitching side of things. So we'll see how that all plays out. I thought the pitching selections were weird in this for this team in general. Like Framber Valdez, he's had a good year. Don't get me wrong. Just kind of surprised he got in. Surprised that Nestor Cortez got in over someone like Tariq Skubal, especially Gregory Soto being the lone Tigers representative over Skubal. Really
Yeah, I don't.
strange. Yeah,
That's very weird.
yeah,
Yeah, the Tigers are going to have more All Stars than the Mariners.
yeah,
Great
yeah,
system, guys. Great system.
yeah, yeah. And honestly,
Genius.
you could have just left it at Miggy because I mean Miggy's at least hitting for average, so like you can
He's
justify it that way. But
he's not an All
uh,
Star,
yeah, but I mean, you could have just left it at him being the Tigers representative because they've
right?
been garbage this year.
Yeah. Major League Baseball needs to decide what the All Star game is about.
Yeah,
Is it about honoring the players who are having the best season, or is it just about getting the most recognizable names possible into one place? And I'm fine with either. I really am.
mm,
But because, like I said, I don't care. Next year's All Star game will be the first All Star game I'll actually watch in like 15 years. And that's only because it's in Seattle. So,
yeah,
yeah, I don't, it's just not for me. But yeah, this is why I don't care about the All Star game so much because it doesn't even feel like the selection process is remotely close to accurate. So,
it's not. It's not at all. It's
and
the hordes of Blue Jays
mhm,
players that were involved in the final vote. Lourdes
Bo,
Gurriel making it to the final five in the
yeah,
like for outfielders, ridiculous.
Bo Bichette is not the best shortstop in the American League. Like he's
Yeah,
not, and the fact that he's that close, like
didn't he make it to the final two? Wasn't it like him
yes,
and Tim Anderson?
yeah, and Anderson I think barely edged him out. So um, yeah, it is what it is.
And also, Tim Anderson shouldn't be the starting
It
shortstop either.
probably
Like,
should be Xander Bogaerts. Like,
yeah.
but no, we'll like I said, we'll see how it goes. It's always a good conversation to talk about snubs and all
Mm,
this stuff, but it's just not one that I typically enjoy having. But
yeah.
it's nice, that there were multiple Mariners that we were like, yeah, they should be an All Star. Where last
Yeah.
year and 2019, we're like who's going to be the Mariners rep? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah. They've
I
had
mean,
Daniel Vogelback,
Yusei
Yusei
Kikuchi,
Kikuchi. Yeah.
those have been their last two.
Yeah. That's,
So
it's nice to be like, yeah, Julio's an all-star. Ty France is an all-star. Like, it
mhm,
should happen. And I think next week we'll probably see Ty down there. We probably will.
probably
Yeah.
not the worst thing in the world if you press that elbow though, because
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's be nice and call it a slow start in his return. But
Yeah, hasn't been ideal. Fortunately, guys like Carlos Santana and Eugenio Suarez picking up
mhm,
the slack on the power front. But yeah, it'd be nice for him to shake the rust off. Still a little surprised that he did not go on a rehab assignment of some kind. They just kind of threw him in there.
yeah,
And I get it's probably because of the Blue Jay series and all that, but it's not really the smartest thing, in my opinion. But yeah. So the cool thing is, to the Mariners get a much needed day off again today, and they'll be back at it tomorrow in Washington for a quick 2-game set with the Nationals. Julio is going to be serving a 1-game suspension tomorrow. So it's a glorified day off for Julio, and we're gonna see Jesse Winker back in action. The Mariners went 6-0 over the stretch without one of their best hitters, Jesse Winker,
mhm,
and also without Mitch Haniger, Kyle Lewis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This team is doing a lot of fun things and not even close to full strength. Yeah, it's hard not to be very, very excited about where this team could be potentially heading. And like you said earlier on in the show, it's now up to John Stanton and Jerry Dipoto to put the final touches on this thing. So
mhm.
It would be cool if they use this day off to, maybe, start things a little bit here and get a trade out of the way. It could be a minor trade. I don't care. It could be just a reliever or something like that. I don't know. I like trades. What can I say? I'm very excited about the next 3 weeks here after this amazing week for the Mariners. But that is going to do it for our show today. And we're going to have a lot more fun this week on Locked On Mariners. We're going to be talking more draft later on this week, of course. We're going to be talking trades, and we're obviously going to be talking about what's going on with the team as they wrap up the first half of the season. But thank you so much for joining us. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also follow our website, Inside the Mariners, over at Inside Mariners, and you can find all that stuff in the description of this episode as well, wherever you're listening or watching it. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every single day. Now make your second listen of the day. Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.